Megatron. Everybody knows that oppression is quite literally this Decepticon's profession for the most part. I mean, I wouldn't have made a 35-minute long video talking about his incarnation in Transformers 1 back in December of 2024 for no reason. Like, come on. Megatron is the Dominator, the Subjugator, the treacherous Tyrant, wait, whoa. Am I reading the script right? The Decepticon who proclaimed himself as and sided with the Autobots and later turned into a human? Huh? Whoa. Okay, the Autobot thing is questionable in of itself, but human Megatron? That sounds ridiculous. Izzy, what the hell are you smoking, dog? Well, dear viewer of mine, I just found out about this a little while ago, and personally, I found this topic fascinating. I wanted to go on a Yap session explaining the story behind Fleshy Megatron to you guys, so I'm gonna try to explain everything from here on out to you, to the best of my ability. But like I always say over here, viewer, consider leaving a like and subscribing if this video makes you laugh or smile at all, and join our community Discord server by clicking the link in the clicking the link in the description. We do game nights and watch movies in there, so tap in if you're interested. Or don't do any of those things, you know? It's your life, your choice. I'm not your dad. Alright, let's get right into it. Our explanation of human Megatron— oh shit, wait, hold on. Let me put my reading glasses on real quick. Our explanation of human Megatron resides in issue number 43 of IDW's Transformers More Than Meets the Eye comic series. I feel like I have to go over the entire issue to you guys, so, you know, this will all make sense. And that's what I'm gonna do. But I will be talking about major plot points and some aspects of the overall narrative of the series, so spoiler alert, just in the odd case that you're catching up on this comic, cause, well, it's 10 years old now, funnily enough, so, but we cool? Cool. The chapter begins with what appears to be a talking baby reading from the same line of More Than Meets the Eye comics as the topic of this video. Keep this fourth wall breaking detail in mind though, because this will be hella important later, believe me. Just trust me on this one. But we learn that this is the only piece of literature on this quote-unquote planet, and this associate of Stewie Griffin is not a real baby. In fact, this is the Autobot known as Tailgate using a hollow form avatar, and he's conversing with another person in a room of their apartment. This handsome woman wearing purple Victorian era drip is none other than a Transformer Cyclonus in his hollow matter state. He's cosplaying as a baddie. But in case you don't know what a hollow form avatar is, it's basically a hologram of a planet's native species that can interact with physical objects, usually used by Transformers to operate undercover. Remember when Blackout flew into the military base at the beginning of the first live-action Transformers movie, and we see the pilot of his vehicle mode flashing a bluish light? It's something like that. But we see that these two are yapping about multiple topics, from conversing about the content of the comic that Tailgate is reading, mentioning Tumblr, name-dropping several other members of what appears to be their team, and throwing slight jabs at each other for their lackluster job of being able to blend in with their environment, you know, the usual. Suddenly a phone rings, and we see that Tailgate got a text message from the Rodimus telling him that time is running out for something. Suddenly, somebody starts knocking on the door of their apartment, as Cyclonus hopes they found him, playing the pronoun game, whoever him is, and we see that three individuals are, you know, walking in. We can safely assume that these three bastards are Skids, Rung, and Bluestreak, and they mention that they got into a paintball war with their three neighbors. Right after that, the comic strangely cuts to some kind of opening credit scene, purposely playing out like this is some kind of weird-ass sitcom of sorts. I'm only spending this much time on the intro here because, well, it's stupidly important. I've noticed that not only does it establish and introduce some of the key characters involved with this story, but it also builds a sense of intrigue. For me, anyway. Keep in mind that this is all still kind of new to me, but why exactly is Tailgate's avatar form a baby though? Does he think he's Stewie Griffin? Rodimus has a phone number? Can I text him? Can I text Arachnid and tell her I love her? Why is this playing out like some sort of sitcom? Izzy, why don't you shut the fuck up? But yeah, things are starting to get interesting, and it only gets better from here on out, in my opinion. Like I said earlier, I'll try to explain everything to the best of my ability as we go along, but back to the comic though. We immediately see Megatron, who as of this moment is donning the Autobot insignia. Crazy shit, I know, but IDW Megatron deserves his own video for a whole other time. But he's calling up a Transformer by the name of Swerve up to the bridge of the ship that he's piloting called the Lost Light. Keep in mind that this Swerve individual serves as the ship's bartender. He has an establishment named after him, which is also kind of important to the plot. So Rodimus appears next to Megatron. Sorry, couldn't resist. And he casually mentions to him that they're being chased by a big ass planet. It looks just like Earth, and whenever the ship speeds up, the planet does too. It's meeting hate riding the crew. The bots attempted to make contact with this Earth, but all they kept getting back is a song that keeps playing on a loop, and in the lyrics it name drops Swerve in his bar. Crazy, and oddly specific shit. So while that's going on, Tailgate was in the middle of giving his friend First Aid a present when Skid suddenly burst in while holding an unconscious Swerve in his arms and calls for help. What the hell is going on? Is bro dead? Well, yes, but actually no. First Aid, along with another doctor named Velocity, ran tests on him, and they see that he's suffering from minor fatigue, joint freeze, and a leakage, but there's no wounds or any signs of severe physical damage. His brainwave activity is going crazy though, which won't matter in less than 2 days because this brother is dying. His spark is drained. He barely has any life left. If the surgeons dared to open him up and perform an operation to see if he has any internal injuries, then they run the risk of killing him. Oh my god. Everyone is justifiably confused, including me when I first read this thing a little while ago. But apparently, Swerve was doing perfectly fine the night before while he was at his bar. A party was being hosted at his place, and according to an Autobot detective on a scene named Nightbeat, he noticed that while everybody was having a good time with each other, Swerve just suddenly upped and disappeared, leaving an after image which confirmed to him that Swerve was using a hollow matter avatar throughout the entire time. But as it seemed like things couldn't have gotten any more interesting, we head back to the ship's bridge and discover that this planet not only stays 400 miles away from the shuttle at all times, but the bots speculated that this thing is acting as if it's being projected, and they tracked the source of its signal, and it's coming straight from the med bay. Swerve. A single hollow form avatar takes days to update, even more if you want to create just one, but this nigga somehow had enough time and energy to not only project the planetoid object, but he managed to populate its surface with fake humans. Bro, what? How is this possible? The bots think that the song that name dropped Swerve earlier was a cry for help, and he devised a plan to use hollow matter avatars to go down to his fake Earth, or Swearth, as it would later be known as, but they have to find Swerve so he can tell them where he's injured at and save his life before whatever's killing him turns him into a Cybertronian-sized blunt. Simple. So Skids, Cyclonus, Rung, Bluestreak, and Tailgate transformed into their human avatars and got to work. So now we're back to where we left off at the beginning of this story. I know you guys clicked on this video for Human Megatron. Trust me, some of you bastards are impatient though, but don't worry, we're getting there. So we see our hollow matter heathens chilling in their apartment complex, getting their thoughts together. Tailgate was breaking the fourth wall again and continued reading up to issue 21 of the same comic series. And just like in real life, the comic currently being read in this comic contains stories of all the crew members that you've been seeing up to this point. All of the characters in this story exist in one that Tailgate is reading, including their own individual arcs and whatnot. But what's cool here though is that stories like this one often contain and lets us see through perspectives from other characters. And since this is all a giant fourth wall break, it allows our key players here to obtain information that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten normally. If this all makes sense. Oh my god, I suck at explaining shit. But in this case, wink wink, Tailgate notes that in issue 21, Swerve opens up a briefcase from another Autobot named Brainstorm. He's a genius, by the way. But when he did, it appeared to do nothing, until he mentioned that the briefcase was actually some kind of strange time machine housing specific energies. Okay, this is getting both crazy and weird. But suddenly, 3 neighbors enter the bot's apartment. They've been locked out of theirs for a while now due to outlandish problems that sound like they came straight out of a TV show. But we have Ted the Priest, Sheldon the Doctor, and Jerry the Stand-Up, who kind of looks like a bum. I don't know why he looks like that. They start arguing with each other until Skids passes Bluestreak the phone, and it's Rodimus, Nautica, and Nightbeat on the other line. I was reading this and I was like, whoa, what the hell? Why are they here? When did they get here? Why do all these niggas look fine as fuck? But basically, everyone is here to help assist with the search for Swerve. Bluestreak tells Rodimus that Swerth was built from the ground up on TV tropes, mainly sitcoms. This plays, oddly enough, even has its own laugh track and theme song. Things are overall just spooky in here. But as Nautica and Nightbeat are raw dogging some glizzies in the background without any condiments, by the way, Rodimus spots you-know-who appears to help the team with the search. Yeah, it's finally that time. Megatron, in all of his white-haired glory, has finally arrived, and I gotta say, he spawned in here and started aura farming, man. Look at the fit! The jacket with the shoulder pads, the white button-up shirt, the skull as his belt buckle that came with a Decepticon insignia. Daddy? Okay, look, listen, I'm not gay, but I can admit when another man is handsome. Human Megatron can give me the word and I deadass get on my knees without any hesitation. I'm just saying. Laugh at me all you want. Nobody's seeing the vision like I am. Crazy. Crazy, whatever, it is what it is. Anyway though, Megatron states that he has never used an avatar form before, never had the need or the inclination. He's new to this. Rodimus basically took his human holomatter virginity away from him. Rodimus tells Megatron that the reason why he looks like this is because Brainstorm and Rung made it so the holomatter creation reflects its results based off of your psyche, which is actually kind of fascinating. I know Megatron has been fighting as a leader for the Decepticons for a very long time in his story, and he's ruthless too. I mean, do you guys even remember what he did to the DJD back when I made that video on Tarn? He tore them apart like they were sheets of homework. But all of this kind of explains why he looks old here. I mean, he's handsome as fuck, but it explains the gray hair, tall and imposing figure, the skull belt, and the Decepticon logo on his cane. Anyway though, Rodimus takes Megatron and the rest of the squad to a bar, since Swerve is a bartender, and we go back to tailgating the gang. Skids admits to Rung that he's been beating himself up over this whole thing. He was probably Swerve's best friend, but he never actually sat down or talked to him or just even kept him company. He doesn't even know which room Swerve lives in back on a Lost Light, only finding out after remembering where Red Alert, Swerve's old roommate, lived in. Which is made even worse due to the fact that Swerve has been in, he's been in there rotting for months essentially. And right before Skids brought him to first aid earlier, he says that he found Swerve laying in a pool of his own lubricant, showing signs of severe self-neglect. But right after this, another giant fourth wall break occurs, and Swerve, talking in the pages of the comic, goes on a generational yap session and explains everything. Opening up that time machine briefcase I mentioned earlier exposed Swerve to his energies, creating a time loop in his holomatter systems, which was how he was able to project a planet-sized hologram, populating it while being shaped by his love for sitcoms and the metafictional stories contained within. Damn, that's crazy. Jesus Christ. Tailgate concludes that this was his way of communicating to the team. Skids and Rung remember that Swerve's room number back on the Lost Light was number 43, which is the same room number that our three neighbors are trying to enter in. Rung puts all the pieces together and calls out Swerve's name, and the three bastards all come together to finally form the real Swerve. While that was going on, we then see Megatron solemnly staring at his own reflection in a mirror at a bar. And the look on his face says it all. This brother is going through it. Megatron and humans have historically never gotten along, so to be among the same species he's sworn to dominate in other continuities have surely taken a hit to his mental. Seeing him get used to, well, being a fleshy and having to come in terms with this condition and lifestyle, temporarily or not, is super intriguing to watch. For me, at least anyway. I don't know about you. And as you probably already see on screen, Nautico wanted to see if he was ticklish, just to, get his hopes back up, to cheer him up essentially. Doing this, however, caused a glass cup to break, and Megatron ends up cutting his hand on the next panel. He felt a surge of pain rushing through his arm after a slight cut, and after Nightbeat tells him this, Megatron exclaims that humans are a rather fragile species in a grand scheme of things. And this is coming from a 40-foot tall war machine who would never feel such sensations coming from an insignificant wound as this one. Nightbeat misinterprets Megatron though, and thought he was trying to say that humans were weak, but nah, Megatron stands on business and reinforces what he said. He never said humans were weak, they're just fragile. They break easily, but he never claimed we were a weak species. There's something about this little segment here that really stands out. Like, you feel Megatron's words hold a lot of weight here. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I still have to do my research on IDW Megatron and read the rest of this series in its entirety, but what I know so far, this continuity's Megatron is trying to change his ways for the better, to atone for his sins in the past, which I would assume might be a major reason why he began siding with the Autobots. I could be wrong or missing something here, and of course feel free to correct me if I am, but that's what I gathered anyway. I feel like this mindset alone is what makes his words so impactful. Megatron really could have said humans were weak, but he didn't. Maybe he's learned to appreciate life more ever since he turned into an Autobot. Maybe becoming a human in this instance has further opened his eyes to the fragility and vulnerability of organic life. Maybe he's gained more respect for humans during the scene, or maybe he's just a giant pussy. I'm just yapping at this point, but yeah, I like the scene a lot. It shows the apparent growth of his character and makes him a standout compared to his different variations throughout all the different, continuities and universes and such. Alright, yeah, I I like that. Going back to Tailgate in the gang, the group is at work questioning Swerve. He's unable to tell the group where he's hurting from because he doesn't know. We then learn from Rung that the reason why Swerve was split into 3 different people was because his holo programming ended up tweaking out when he projected Swerve. The 3 neighbors were each such a strong and distinct element of his character that Swerve's holo programming fumbled the bag and confused him for actual people. The group then comes to the conclusion that Swerve has been suppressing his pain and refuses to leave because, well, this is his happy place, his personal bubble. He's able to truly be himself here, free from the thoughts of depression, free from feeling hurt, free from feeling anxiety. He's able to be comfortable here, without any pain, without any judgment. He admits that he thinks about sitcoms often and falls back on them because he views his life as one. He points out that the best sitcoms are the ones where characters who normally don't fit in overcome various objectives, which leads to them becoming closer in the end. And he views his life as this type of sitcom. Except instead of growing closer to everybody on the Lost Light, he felt he was growing further apart, and things didn't help when Megatron went full Autobot and joined the crew, because at that point he felt he wasn't a main character in his story anymore. Bro got sidelined. That's crazy. Cyclonus locked in and started giving him a motivational pep talk, and at first it sounded completely brutal and harsh, reminding me of when Elita 1 tried giving Orion a pep talk back in Transformers 1. But Cyclonus continued on by saying that despite his shortcomings and personality flaws, he's still important to the rest of the crew. It then gets revealed to us that Ultra Magnus, Chrome Dome, and Rewind were also among the Lost Light crew members who were sent to Swerve to try to find a comrade, despite the risk of them getting hurt. Ah shit, wait, I forgot to mention this earlier. Due to Swerve being at a constant 400 miles away, this distance was enough to give anyone being projected down to the false planet's surface a slight chance of death. Think of it as an unstable connection. The longer you're there, the more likely you're gonna get disconnected and your ticket to life expires. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? So yeah, that along with Cyclonus' dry humor motivated Swerve to lock back in. Suddenly though, his left shoulder starts bleeding into the shape of an Autobot insignia, revealing that his injury was there all along. So everyone manages to safely make it back to the Lost Light while Swerve begins fading away, and a joyful Velocity successfully treats Swerve's injuries. Turns out he had an infection in his energon stream resulting from an old shoulder wound. Velocity radios First Aid about her success in saving Swerve's life, but shortly after this, First Aid stumbles upon an older picture of Swerve. He was using another body type at the time and sees that the Autobot insignia was on his left shoulder. He connects the dots. He's like, wait a minute, injury in his left shoulder, recently tainted energon stream, it's still there, I know who did this. So First Aid radios Velocity back and tells her to open Swerve back up and get that thing out of his shoulder. And while she's doing that, he's heard of a snitch in the Decepticon Justice Division. Agent 113 is their name, and rumors have it that this operative records important data onto a chip and hides that data into a bullet. He fires it at unsuspecting Autobots into the right eye of the Autobot badge, and as Velocity is digging out Swerve, pause, we see that the fabled object is real! The bullet is real! And that's it for issue number 43 of More Than Meets the Eye. I gotta say though, I am loving the art style in these comics. Okay, I know it's the title and thumbnail of this video, and I know I gassed it up in my community tabs, but the Human Megatron subplot was not a key focal point in this story. Get clickbaited. But what little we did get out of it was damn near amazing for all the reasonings I gave earlier. I don't want to sound like a broken record or anything, but something about seeing the realization of it all in Megatron's eyes during the bar scene is just, damn, I can't help but feel for him. It's great. This whole story was basically about Swerve, and I also found it to be interesting in its own way. Okay, this is gonna sound like a crazy reach, but just hear me out. The themes of the narrative here reminded me of Expedition 33 in a way. I'm not gonna spoil anything in case you're playing it or whatever, but just to briefly go over it, both stories deal with depression and escapism in a way. Except that one story is far more heartwarming and hopeful since, it's Transformers. But the other story in this case, dives deeper past depression and escapism, showing what it means to truly grieve for someone. This is just an observation of mine, nothing's gonna come out of it, but I just noticed that these two narratives share a few themes, that's all. If you were to walk away with anything from this story, you could say that Megatron's human design goes harder than a Geodude. And I'll agree with you, bro, no homo when I say this, but I'd suck his dick. I can appreciate his appearance, is what I'm trying to say. But that calls it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this surface level yap session, Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Brian Tyree Henry. A couple of weeks ago, he attended 2025's Met Gala event, and we saw that D16's fashion game was on point. That's how I also found out that a human Megatron actually canonically exists. Crazy. But I hope you enjoyed this chill little yap session of mine. Consider leaving a like and subscribing if you vibe with it at all, or don't. But I got another video coming out soon. In the meantime though, I love you. Getting me to 10K on this platform is absolutely crazy, and I have plans for a planet-sized Transformers video to celebrate with y'all. But in the meantime, I want you to stay safe, stay hydrated, and please take care of yourselves. Peace out, y'all.